So you want to make real money on Vinted, not just selling old clothes from your wardrobe once in a while. I mean, building something consistent, something you can rely on, something that can reliably bring in £100, £500, £1,000, maybe even £5,000 per month, depending on how seriously you take it. The biggest mistake most people make is they treat Vinted like a one-time wardrobe clear out. They sell a few Zara tops, an old hoodie, maybe a pair of trainers, and once that stock is gone, the income disappears with it. That's why most people never turn it into a real side hustle. The sellers who actually build consistent income do one thing differently. They build repeatable sourcing systems. It's not about what you sell at, it's about what you buy at. And they know exactly where the stock is coming from, what kind of margins they need, and how to keep fresh inventory flowing every single week. So if I was starting from scratch today, I'd focus on the sourcing models that can actually scale depending on your budget, your time, and how seriously you want to take this. Now, the first place I'd start is car boot sales. You may have heard about this before, but the reason being is because it's one of the best ways to get huge margins with almost no money. Let me explain. Car boot sales are powerful because most of the people selling there are not resellers. They're just trying to clear space. Wardrobes, garages, lofts, storage boxes. It might be a house move or a uni move, and that creates opportunity. You're buying from people who care more about the value of getting rid of things than the value in the items themselves. And that's where you can still find Nike hoodies for £2, vintage Levi's for £3, football shirts for a fiver, or leather jackets for less than £10. The margins here can be ridiculous. A £2 hoodie can become £18, £5 jacket can become £35. The real money, though, often comes from bundles. If someone offers you a pile of 8 to 10 decent items for £10, you're no longer thinking item by item. You're thinking average cost. If your average buy price drops close to £1 per item, it becomes very hard not to make money. The trade-off, however, is inconsistency. Some weekends are dead. Others pay for the whole month. So this works best if you enjoy the hunt, you enjoy the journey, you have a small starting budget, and you want the highest margins possible. Once I had that flow working, the next layer I'd add is charity shops, because this gives you consistency. Now, they have got expensive in recent years. You may have heard this elsewhere, and it is very true, but they're still very much relevant for beginners starting out and trying to source consistent products. The reason charity shops work so well is simple. They let you turn sourcing into a weekly routine. Unlike car boots, you're not waiting for Sunday morning. You can source after work, on your lunch break, before the gym, on weekends, whenever you have an hour free. And that makes this strategy so much easier to systemize. The edge here is knowing what to look for, because charity shops are pricing for turnover, not resale optimization. So the value is usually in premium fabrics, timeless outerwear, strong brands, good condition denim, suede bags, wool knitwear, occasion wear, men's shirts, all of the above. This is where having a niche, however, becomes a superpower, because if your wardrobe is known for premium knitwear or vintage sportswear or luxury accessories, sourcing gets faster because your brain instantly filters what matters. So I definitely recommend honing in on one if you're going to look at charity shops. The margins are usually slightly tighter than car boots, as I mentioned, but the consistency is far better. And that consistency matters because it creates predictable stock flow, which is what turns this from random flipping into reliable income. But if I wanted the most convenient sourcing model possible, I'd move into Vinted to Vinted, or platform to platform flipping, some people call it. Now, this is probably the most underrated and the most underused model in my view. You're buying directly on Vinted and then relisting the exact same item better. This opportunity exists because many sellers want quick cash, use poor lighting, upload bad photos, don't know the brand, don't understand demand, price too emotionally. So the edge is not location, it's information. You're spotting value that the seller didn't. Maybe someone lists a suede bag for £6. The photos are dark, the title's vague, they don't know what you know. No measurements, no styling. You relist it with better lighting, sharper keywords, trend-focused description, maybe a styling photo or measurements, and a stronger pricing. Now it sells for £18. Same stock, different positioning, because you understand what perceived value is and you can position it correctly compared to how you've bought it. It may be dark and dingy and you make it bright and interesting. Now, this strategy is perfect if you don't want to spend time traveling, because the entire business can be run from your phone. The only downside is competition. The best deals disappear fast. So speed, saved searches, and knowing your categories matter. Saved categories on this are brilliant. And I'm going to do another video at some point about how to do this method specifically, but I just wanted to cover it here. And quickly, if you are enjoying this and want to learn how I actually turn this into a real business, please do subscribe. I've scaled my Vinted business to £10,000 a month. And on this channel, I break down the exact systems behind it, from sourcing to pricing to listings, bundles, buyer psychology, and what actually sells fast. So if you want the exact framework I use, make sure you're subscribed, and please do give this video a like. It really does help. Now, once I wanted to scale inventory faster, I would be moving on to job lots. Now, this is where the business starts to compound. Instead of chasing single flips, you're buying volume. That changes everything. Now the question is no longer, will this item sell? It becomes, does the average buy cost across the whole lot leave enough margin? You start thinking bigger. So let's say someone on Facebook Marketplace or eBay is selling 40 mixed clothing items for 50 quid. That's over £1 or just over £1 per item. Now, even if 10 are average, 5 a week, and a few have flaws, the strong branded pieces can still carry the whole purchase. And this is one of the fastest ways to build inventory and diversify what you're doing across a number of items. One good lot can give you weeks of listings, which keeps your wardrobe active and increases overall sales velocity. The risk is obvious. Not every item will fit your niche. Some may be damaged, some may sit for months. That's why the money is always made when you buy the lot, like I said, not later. If the average cost per item doesn't leave room for profit, then it's not a good deal. Move on. Lose the emotion. Once the cash flow is strong, I'd start moving into the most scalable model of all, wholesale. Now, this is where it starts feeling less like flipping and more like building an actual resale business. Wholesale removes randomness. And one thing I would say before anything is it's driven on relationships. Now, I'll come to that in a second, but instead of hoping to find good stock, you create a supply chain. That could mean vintage wholesalers, liquidation suppliers, ex-retail dead stock, outlet clearance, branded overstock, seasonal bulk stock. The biggest advantage is the consistency. You can replenish in the same categories again and again. If you are known for baseball caps, you can find a baseball cap supplier and keep selling baseball caps. That means your wardrobe starts looking more curated, more reliable, more professional, and that will lead to more sales and more profit and more consistency. Now, this is ideal once you already know what categories move fastest, what your margins are, your average sell-through time, and what your buyers respond to. Because once you understand those numbers, wholesale lets you scale aggressively. The only real danger is in tying up too much capital in the wrong stocks. And that's why you have to be patient, understand your market, understand your numbers, and go from there. So I'd only use wholesale once I already knew exactly what was selling for me. The truth is, the best vintage sellers rarely rely on just one sourcing model. They combine them. The wholesaler could go down, the car boot could be rained off, but ultimately, if you diversify, you're going to go well. Car boots for huge margins, charity shops for reliable weekly sourcing, Vinted flips for convenience. You can do it in the bath, on the train, on the way to work, on the way to school. Job lots for scale, wholesale for long-term consistency. And that combination gives you one thing casual sellers never achieve, and that is repeatable inventory flows. Sourcing is the most important thing if you were looking to scale to the level that I and other vintage sellers have. And once inventory becomes predictable, the income becomes predictable too. And that is the moment it stops being random extra cash and starts becoming a real Vinted business. So if I was starting on Vinted today, this is exactly how I'd build it. Start with a sourcing model that matches your budget, master it, then layer the others on top as cash flow grows. That's how you go from selling old clothes to building something that actually pays every single month. Once you've got the sourcing handled, the next thing that really changes the game is knowing which categories move fastest and what margins are actually worth your time. There's no point selling things for £3 if they only sell every 3 months. But if you want to sell something for £3 that sells every 5 minutes, then it's worth it. If this video helped you, make sure you like the video and subscribe. I'll be breaking down more of the systems I use to grow my Vinted business. So if you want practical videos on sourcing, pricing, listings, bundles, and scaling, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.